session 6, in which we might actually begin to engage the first beginning of the proposed game cycle as she is written in the game, right? I mean, I was reading, I can't remember where I was at. I was looking at the book today, and they were talking about like getting started for any of the, and I haven't gone and looked at the sort of the setup scenarios for the other ships, other than the one that we start out with. But I will say this: the way the notes are written would seem to imply that all of them sort of start in media res, and because they're like, regardless of what ship you're in, the characters may have questions about how they got into the middle of this situation. Fill stuff in. And I'm like, so what you're saying is none of them actually start at the beginning of the play cycle.
Or maybe they do.
Well, the way it's written, it would seem to imply that. I need to go and look at the other ones just to satisfy my.
It could also imply you're just rolling it before you decide anything.
Could be. I'd have to see. I'm certainly not going to go look right now. All right. So when we last left the crew, they were on Indri at the Elephant Bar and Grill. No. What do we call it? Hortons?
Hortons. Yep.
It's terrible. It's so bad.
You're welcome.
And had put out feelers for potential jobs. I had rolled something at the end of last session. I chucked that because that table is actually kind of weird and annoying and not as complete as the one at the end of the book that Mike so conveniently coded up for me. So I'm going to forget his name. Oh my God, I gotta forget his name. Our elephant friend, Allure. I thought it was Allure. I was remembering it correctly, and then I sort of doubted myself. All right. Well, I was remembering. I was like, that can't be right. Well, I mean, who's he talking to? Probably when you guys, because you guys had kind of got together in the back room, and if I remember right, we're chatting things. It's been so long. 2 whole weeks.
Okay, damn it. I will look at the
Is this
actual
the point where
you guys were in the back room and we're kind of talking about what to do and what not to do. Specifically,
right.
Don't sell the shiny until we figure out how we can best implement the shiny.
I'm gonna sell the shiny.
Don't sell the shiny.
Don't tempt me.
So Kay had come up with something.
Kay had come up with something?
Kay had come up with something by talking to drifters and vagabonds.
Good news.
Right.
2 jobs. Bad news. Living cargo. One that can talk and one that can't.
Yeah. And I have a slightly different one that I'm actually going to kind of throw out there, although it's still going to be as a result of Kay's schmoozing and hobnobbing.
I don't want the guy in the Dalmatian suit.
So I'm
perfectly okay with that.
There's a job that involves what looks, I mean, they're trying to be coy. It's probably the Cobalt Syndicate. And they have a target that they would like. They've got, there's a few schematics, sort of like here be treasure, of the target in question. And the job is to get onto this location and acquire some data and get out with it. They would like that stuff. A little bit more research, or rather just talking with your scoundrels and stuff, would indicate Cobalt Syndicate's fairly small fry criminal organization, but they've been very annoying to powerful people. Because they've been, they're sort of smugglers, and what they've been doing is really being better at moving stuff in some major arteries of trade. Specifically, they've managed to get a very, so nobody really knows how, a very reliable route for ungoverned moving of goods and services between Procyon sector and the core, which is everyone kind of, but that's been sort of their thing, has been figuring out ways of moving stuff in some mass. As a result, you got the larger organizations like the Starsmith Guild and people like that are not big fans of them because they've been.
Well, they like that monopoly they have.
Yeah, they're. I've tried. There's a line from The Incredibles. You know, they're penetrating the system. They're penetrating.
They're penetrating the bureaucracy.
Yeah, they're penetrating the bureaucracy. That's what it is. So there's a lot of that going around. Anyway, word seems to be Cobalt Syndicate has got this target. They want to acquire some juicy data from what appears to be a dark station, which is to say a station that's out there in the black along an undocumented hyperlane route. You know, that can be got to.
But by station, what do you mean?
I mean, what do I mean?
Current or past?
It is not, it is an hang on. When I say station, I mean something like this. Except probably not, I mean, not that, but, you know, to illustrate.
But current technology, not ancient technology.
Not an Ur station, not a lost station, not like some floating Ur artifact, but somebody's little private station out there that they would like to see somebody get onto, do a little data grab and bring to them. And it's pretty juicy. It'll pay 6 cred, so the pay's pretty good. It's not super close. It's in the Holt system, which is kind of more noticeable because you don't see a lot of, but it's also a fairly undocumented, well, I should say less documented system. So the idea of somebody sitting away in a bolt hole is a little bit, I mean, space is big, so it's not like you can't hide in lots of different places. But it is a little bit further away. It is in Holt, which theoretically should be back up now? Question mark? In terms of access and stuff. I mean, you're far enough away that you've got some time to get over there anyway. So if that is enticing, certainly the pay is good. The dark hyperspace lanes would be something else to add to your booklet, to your documentation of dark hyperspace lanes, if this is in fact where the thing lies, and it's not just in the middle of nowhere, and you've got to just slow boat it out there. But, you know, challenging. Get up to the station without them noticing. Although if it is a truly dark station, they're probably not doing active sensor sweeps and stuff. So there's that. Things like that.
Just lots of passive sweeps.
Well, there's, you know, you got to come in, you know, that's all something to figure out what you guys are going to do in terms of the thing. But, and there isn't a ton, there's a little bit of intel, you know, along with the job, but, you know, get to the station, get into the station, get through the station without, you know, setting off every alarm in the place.
Can you tell me what you mean by dark, though? I mean, that no one's there, or that it's off?
Dark as in not broadcasting light waves in any frequency. Which is to say, you know, they're not actively pinging, you know, sending out radar sweeps to make sure nobody's getting closer. They're you know, in the sort of Star Trek sense of the word, up to but not including, oh, we have to shut off all the lights and heating elements inside the ship.
Okay.
Dark isn't secret.
Dark is in secret and not trying, not making a
Not submarine warfare dark.
Yeah, making
They have the big neon sign at the top of the station turned off.
Yeah. Well, they're making an effort not to be like anybody who points a radio telescope in their general direction is going to be like, there's something man-made out there that is not documented. They're trying not to have that kind of stuff show up. It would certainly show up as a hotspot because they're not trying to run completely dead. And you know, like I said,
they've got a lampshade on the bulb.
Yeah, they got a lampshade on the bulb. They're trying to, you know, it's dark in the sense of, you know, the bomb sirens have gone off, so trying to stay quiet, kind of thing. Okay. Basically undocumented station. Not like they couldn't communicate, but they'd probably do it via tight beam laser broadcasts and things like that. So you're like doing point-to-point communications and stuff like that. Because you're not getting just broad blasts of radio. You're doing, you know, we know where this other thing is at. We've done the calculations, so we will send out this tight beam, and they will receive it. And nobody else will. Kind of a deal.
Right, and we'll send it at this fixed time, and
yes, and we've done the math and know when our target will be intercepting that spot. And space is big, so there's not going to be any accidental nonsense with like some random dude in the skiff intercepting it, things like that. So
that's a way in. If we know where the place is, we can just randomly intercept some stuff.
Yeah, you might be able to get that kind of thing. They do want. I mean, what they want is they've got specific data that they want. But again, it's kind of like you need to contact, you know, like signal your interest further before you get, you know, the next series of instructions. Say I'm in. I don't know. Put your toe in the ring, that kind of thing. Pays good. It kind of suits you guys pretty well. I mean, in terms of just general stuff, it's not perfect, but what is
6 cred? 6 cred.
6 cred is 6 cred. If every
whole system interesting.
If every pork chop were perfect, I wouldn't get hot dogs.
Hot dog.
Pork chops and hot dogs.
What do you guys think?
Man, I'm down.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like it fits in with some of the other stuff that we're, you know, interested in.
Certainly. I mean, and that, you know, certainly there were other jobs that you would have heard about. Okay.
More routine.
Yeah. This one's kind of like the one that most piqued your interest. Because there's a lot of possibilities here for, and you can figure out a bit more if you're in. So let me think. What else we know? There's what you know, and then there's what Scuttlebutt would seem to indicate, you know, the general consensus, or you know, what can be gleaned by instructions and that sort of thing. It's a whole station, probably indicates some money, unless it's a recovered station. The indication on the instructions is that it's the data pertains to documentation or rather info on waylines, undocumented waylines, which would be, for all intents and purposes, the same as dark, you know, dark hyperspace lanes. So apparently somebody in there has got a bunch of documentation on that kind of stuff, and the Cobalt Syndicate, unsurprisingly, given their speciality, wants it. And
they like their back roads?
Yes, and are willing to, yeah, they want more. And these guys not having it might be a plus. The scuttlebutt, whether or not it's actually accurate or not, would indicate that this. I mean, what they say is probably, so who knows, is Starcrafters Guild. Starcrafters? The guys who make the gates and maintain the hyperspace lanes and stuff. So if this is like their little secret research base and data storage, blah, blah, blah.
Well, maybe we can blame them for Holt going down.
Sure. But if that's what this is, then it would make sense that they've got the data. It would also make sense that the Cobalt Syndicate wants it. Certainly the Cobalt Syndicate and Starcrafters Guild do not get along. So there's enough, angry poking back and forth. They also means they have resources, so there's some concern there. Their security is going to be probably pretty good. So that's what it is. Sound good? Used to sound good?
Yes.
Okay. Oh yeah, Dave. Oh yes.
I wonder what is for lunch.
Son, did you secretly or sneakily pick up rigging at some point? Because I noticed you had rigging, and I guess I didn't realize rigging.
Oh yeah, no, I I accumulated my points,
and that's where you picked up?
Put one into rigging.
Nice.
Because that's why I was kind of getting at with studying and stuff. I was looking back at notes. I figured
right.
At some point I had
it had been
some
long enough
patient who knew how to rig, and over the course of treating them, he went over the 4 basics over and over and over.
Nice. Very good. I like it. I think I probably knew that. I had just kind of
No, I did it kind of quietly.
Oh, there you go. Well, I'm glad I wasn't completely out of it. Okay. Well then, if that is what we're doing, we need to do the next thing. And the next thing would be not this. I'm pulling up sheets. No, not that one either. All right, I'll grab the book. The engagement role. This is our great, I actually like the way they wrote this up. It's pretty fun. If I can just get to it. Planning and engagement. Your crew spends time planning each job. They stand in the ship's galley and review flickering hull displays of terrain, look at stolen schematics, whisper plots and schemes while pointing to makeshift figurines placed on haphazardly sketched notes, bicker about the best approach, lament the dangers ahead, and less if the cred that they know is waiting at the end of the job if they can just figure out everything. But you, the players, don't have to do do the nitty-gritty planning. So your characters take care of that off screen. All you have to do is choose what type of plan the characters have already made. There's no need to sweat all the little details and try to cover every eventuality ahead of time, because the engagement roll, and a lot of flashbacks, ultimately determines how much trouble you're in when this plan is put into motion. No plan is ever perfect. If every pork chop were perfect, we wouldn't have hot dogs. You can't account for everything. This system assumes that there's always some unknown factors in trouble, major or minor, in every operation. Why play out an operation if everything goes smoothly? You just have to make the best of it. There are 6 different plans. This is on page 148 for those of you keeping track at home. Each with a missing detail you need to provide.
Also on their character sheets.
Also in your character sheets, really. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
To plan a job, simply choose the plan and supply the detail. The GM will cut to the action as the early moments of the operation unfold. Assault. Do violence to a target. The detail required is the point of attack. Deception. Lure, trick, or manipulate. Detail the method of deception. Infiltration. And there's no reason, I want to make this clear, there's no reason, aside from preference, that you can't go like, well, we don't know whether the, deception, whether we can pretend to be a supply hall, blah, 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 blah. If that's what you're doing, then that's what you're doing. And some of what's assumed is that there was research that happened that told you...
Backs that up.
Yeah, that backs up the, we figured out that there's a few quiet little delivery, whatever,
So we established facts that retroactively justify the plan that we chose.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And you use flashbacks to justify other playing
tell
that
that story.
you did. Which, on the one hand, I am at some level a real rules tweaking grognard. I truly am. I get great, and this makes people rub their temples, but I get great pleasure out of the story of my bard back in D&D 3.5, who with 9 hit points pulled off an entire necklace of fireballs. I think it was 11 hit points. Threw it through a doorway, and then leapt down the stairs, and basically had about a 50-50 chance of making the acrobatics or tumbling or some kind of roll to get through the door and out of the opening of the door, so that my reflex save, if successful, would result in no damage as opposed to any damage at all, which would have killed him outright. Because it was like the nerdiest. Like, I am totally the guy who will go, I have 42 hit points, so I can jump off of a 9-story building and I will survive 86% of the time. And even if I don't, odds are really, really good it's not going to be enough to outright kill me, and the cleric's already down there, so I'll be fine. Like, I am totally that guy who will plan. That's not this game, but that doesn't mean it isn't a challenge to players. Instead of being a planning thing, it's more of the inventive creation of cool bits challenge. That's the challenge that's laid before you, not the intricate planning, but and hopefully that will still be entertaining, because certainly you guys like coming up with your cool bits. So hopefully that will that this kind of challenge is still entertaining. Anyway, yes.
Do you know what kind of player I am?
The kind that likes to get hurt. Like, I was gonna say masochist. Is that a player type?
Probably, but no. In that same situation, I would just be like, I can probably make this.
Yeah, I've sit through and
there's no math to support that one. It's just like, I got a good feeling about this.
I don't know that I want to have Drost describe my player type.
I would agree that you don't want me to. No. So assault, which we're essentially doing violence to target. Deception, where we're detailing the method of deception. Infiltration, trespass unseen, detail the point of infiltration. Mystic, engage mystic, way, or power, detail the arcane power at use. Social, we're going to negotiate, bargain, or persuade our way in. Fascinate them with bullshit. Detail your social connection that you use.
That's my line.
And finally, transport, carry cargo or people through danger, detail the route and means, which I have to kind of squint at that one a little bit for this particular job. But
not all of them work for every job.
Yeah, not all of them work for every job. That one looks a little bit. Yeah, I mean, there was one. If the job is to transport somebody from point A to point B, your port of entry is not assault. I mean, probably not.
Well, unless it's a kidnap job.
Unless you're really
ramming for a barricade.
There's something to be said for assault in almost every case. I'm just saying.
I don't want to dismiss any idea out of hand, especially if that hand is curled into a fist. Anyway, so that is the first thing to do, is for you guys to figure out what the just general plan is, what type of option you have.
Well, I'm thinking, just kind of looking at it, that given the nature of the place, that some sort of infiltration probably makes the most sense.
That was my idea, is just like, pretend we're supposed to be there.
Sidle up is, pretend you're supposed to be there is good once you're in the door. Infiltration
is deception sort of thing.
Yeah, infiltration is to a certain extent, we're just dealing with the first part of the plan, which is the if you deal with infiltration, it's the how do we get up to the front door without anybody noticing that we're there. And that would be and there's a couple different ways to do that. The infiltration one would be literally like trying to get the ship up to the station without anybody really noticing you're there. Or close, and then you go across in spacesuits, which are very, very tiny spaceships.
Everything's a spaceship if you're brave enough.
I am a spaceship with all I need is a fire extinguisher and the ability to hold my breath. Actually, not hold my breath, but anyway. Yeah, so there's that kind of stuff. So there you go. Thoughts? I'm open to whatever. It you know.
Well, if
you got that whole Firefly thing of just floating the ship, obviously not crashing into the station, but floating the ship in. Basically,
yeah, I mean, if they're only doing passive, scans and stuff like that, then yeah, we just pretend to be a hole in space that slowly drifts up to them, and
you just kind of drift up with using the compressed gas stuff, and match rotation, match speed, and just kind of lamprey your way right up to the side of this thing. I mean, that's once you're on, you got to worry about other stuff, of course. So yes.
No, I think that works.
Is that the plan? So going just to really nail this down, then, if infiltration, trespass, unseen detail, point of infiltration. So is that what is the point of infiltration? Is it floating the ship up to an airlock and overriding the airlock systems and just hope nobody notices the ship is latched on, which is not unreasonable? Is it get within 100 kilometers and then float over in spacesuits and wait until they blow trash out and go in through the trash compactor tube? Or what's the actual sort of point of ingress? Did I just give Dave flashbacks to?
Well, it has such a Star Wars look. I'm gonna say we have to maybe come up or down from the spindly bits on the top and the bottom.
Yeah, I didn't. The station itself, I wasn't particularly trying. I wasn't saying it's that station. I was just sort of making clear what kind of thing we were talking about, as opposed to.
I would probably say not the main airlocks or cargo deck or what, the main ways in and out, because someone's going to be paying attention to those. But, if we can get up to the side of the ship to where there's, escape pod hatches or some sort of EVA maintenance hatch, that's sort of, that sort of place is a lot easier in theory to get in if we can bypass whatever built-in alarms.
So not so much docking the ship in, but getting close and then floating yourself over as in suits.
Well, we can get up close and then have the airlock extend and kind of wrap around wherever it is that we're going up against,
and then make your own airlock. I'm not.
So in other words, I'm thinking, the airlocks have some sort of adaptation tubes or something to connect between.
Sure.
So just get it so that we're outside a place where there's a door to the hull. Sock onto it there. Bypass the security that says, "Hey, why is escape pod 3 showing open?" and go in that way.
But the functional idea is dock. I mean, for all intents and purposes,
dock out of the. Do it in a non-standard place.
Yes, some place where there's some.
Probably as much detail as we need.
Yeah, exactly, and kind of true. Like the point of attack, whatever. The main reason for this is to give me a jumping off point for the plan. The detail is also an opportunity to bring in your contacts. Could your friends, whether it's ship contacts or personal contacts, give you a hint on any good points of attack on your assault? So if you have a dock master or something like that. Like maybe you've got some like one grainy, you know, blurred picture of the station, and they kind of squint at it. It's like, oh, that's a model such and such, and they've got, you know, do you guys have any contacts that make sense logically to go, this person would be able to provide some useful advice or support or you know, details that would help.
It seems like you're around Bill.
Possibly.
I don't really have any contacts that spring out for me, so.
We've got the what else? What else is in there? What's in the ship contacts?
We technically only know the one person.
I thought that was just. I thought you knew everybody, but you're friendly with
that's
that
on
person.
the character sheets.
Oh.
The crew sheet isn't like that, so we don't have NPC overload.
Really?
Really?
I did.
Okay, so on your individual friends.
Sure. Yes.
You know, an up arrow means there's somebody that you have a positive.
Yes, a negative
relationship.
The down arrow means it's somebody who.
Yeah.
You know.
And then the rest are what you're saying is the rest that are just sort of neutral. That you know them, but you don't.
Oh, okay. Nope. Joyce, you were right.
Are you getting it confused with Blaze in the Dark?
I'm getting it confused with other things.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah, I went to go check, and I was like, oh, nope, I'm wrong.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was gonna say because Katani was actually supposed to be your way in on the original job, so you at least know her. So for instance, you know, Takala, a dockmaster, might have, you know, some knowledge about this kind of thing, and it's more just you guys calling out and saying yes, they do, or whatever. So that's, you know, a little bit up to you guys, just to kind of decide one way or the other.
So on my character sheet, I have somebody, but they probably wouldn't be good because they're a down arrow. So
the down arrow indicates
a rival. They could just be a rival.
Yeah, I mean they don't necessarily. Waiting for this thing to close up. Where's your little people? Aura and info broker. So the up and down. Oh, now I gotta find that thing. Where's that at? What does it specifically indicate? Maybe that you just like. Oh. Where is that mentioned? No, that's crew creation. Not far enough back.
It isn't.
It's probably at the very beginning of the character sheets or character.
Choose one friend and one rival.
That's just a
Each
rival.
playbook has several NPC friends. It's important to note that you know all these people well. Choose one from the list who's a close relationship, a good friend, lover, a family relation, or similar.
Mm-hmm.
Mark the up-pointing triangle next to their name. Then pick another NPC on the list who's now your rival or enemy. They may have been a friend once. Mark the downward-pointing triangle next to their name. That's 59.
Yeah, probably then. I don't know that they'd be willing to help you. Well, yeah, they're more supposed to be that annoying.
Well,
like you're.
Yeah, I mean, you may be able to get information out of them, but you don't know what they're going to. They're not do with that information.
Yeah, they're not necessarily going to be somebody you can just blindly go, oh well, they're going to help me.
Right.
You know, just for story background, I'm just going to say that they're going to be the one that's helping me. That's less likely. Could you get something out of them? Yeah, but this isn't a role thing. It's more like figuring out if there's dice to help out, any of that kind of stuff. And I'm looking at completely unrelated now. Something with Armin's that I was curious about. Anyway, I'm fine with I mean, the dockmaster might be of some help since this is a station kind of thing, and you know, she might be why not? She might be of help in this, and so keep that in the back of the mind because we'll probably need to, you know that. Could your friends document blah blah Item loadouts. After the plan and the detail are in place, each player chooses their character's load. This indicates how much stuff they're carrying on the operation. They don't have to select individual items, just the maximum amount they'll have access to during the action. Armor is also refreshed. Does anybody actually have armor?
We all have default armor.
Yeah, like, so I'm pull up some.
Yeah, if we pick up the armor out of our shared thing, we have that.
Oh, like out of the items.
Yes.
Section.
Heavy armor by default is something you actually have to go get.
Right.
And then, like through a long-term action or an asset acquisition for temporary, like shields or something.
Right.
Like, it's good for 5 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
Or and then the special armor comes from special abilities.
I love that all of your like default items. I'm looking at the speaker here. Like all of your default items that work for your, like are customized to your character are mostly just like
clothes.
Yeah. Well, luxury items in general. Or now they're all disappearing. What did you do?
Because I only had half of that because for some reason I accidentally got double everything.
Oh, okay. But still, it's funny. Like luxury item. So
I have 3 different kinds of luxury items. One that takes up
no space. Yeah. One that does. One that takes up a lot of space.
So can you tell me why wouldn't we just choose a heavy load? I mean, so what are the consequences of the heavier versus lighter load?
You stand out more.
That's the main one.
You stand out more. It's also something with speed. Remind me.
Well, I'm thinking standing out is not maybe a factor here because we don't want to be seen. So the question is.
So this is page 61. A light load, you're faster, less conspicuous, you blend in with ordinary folk. Normal, you look like you're ready for trouble. Heavy, you're slower, you look like a scoundrel on a mission, ready for trouble. No one will mistake you for anything other than what you are.
Right.
So as long as we stay out of sight.
Well, I mean, you're on a station, there are hallways. You're going to probably run into somebody, but if you can get in there and pass yourself off as somebody who's supposed to be there, that's a lot. I'm not going to say a little. It's a lot easier if you're not loaded for bear.
Right. So the heavy load, it's I've got the rocket launcher on my shoulder, the heavy the power armor, and the 2 huge duffel bags in each hand. That stands out.
Don't forget the illicit drugs.
They're a 0 item.
Yeah, I always have the illicit drugs. That's my secret captain. That's my secret captain.
They're 0.
I always have the illicit drugs.
Me and the doctor.
To a certain extent, it goes to, and you don't have to pick out items. You just have to kind of get an idea of how flexible you want to be, and some of the flex. It's just a trade-off. With a light load, your flexibility comes in your ability to adapt to the situation and adapt to unexpected things by being able to play it cool. The bigger loads are your flexibility comes in when it goes sideways, which it inevitably will. You'll be able to respond with more stuff. Or at least, I say which it inevitably will, kind of tongue in cheek, because it's a lot more likely when you're carrying a rocket launcher or whatever. Blaster pistol, a second blaster pistol, a heavy blaster. Anyway, yes.
So the real thing is like, do you want to look inconspicuous? Do you want to look slightly out of place, or do you want to look like you're going to wreck up the joint?
Right.
Yeah, and that may be. Different answer for.
There are costs and benefits to all of those.
Yep. And a given team, you might have, depending on on how the op is designed off screen, it may make sense that you've got You've got Monster with all of the heavy equipment, stashed all over his body, and you've got Armin there, kind of looking like a casual businessman,
Yep.
lost in the wrong sector of the station.
Zarathustra, the detonator launcher. I love how every single one of your weapons has a name, and that one of them is one of your relationships.
Yes.
Anyway, carry on. So yeah, you guys should figure out what loads you're gonna carry. Gambits for the ship goes up to 3, which I think is we've already reset. If I looked correctly, I think the gambits are already up at 3. Each ship comes with the starting gambits, and they're tweaked up because we have a scoundrel who took the appropriate things for that kind of thing.
Yay.
Yay. Once the players choose a plan and provide its detail, the GM cuts to the action. Describing the scene, the crew engaged in the first obstacle. How is this established? The way the GM describes the starting situation impacts how complicated the operation turns out to be. Rather than expecting the GM to get it right each time we use a dice roll, this is the engagement roll. So the engagement roll is a fortune roll. It starts with a 1d6 for sheer luck. Modify the dice pool for major advantages or disadvantages. So the worst I can roll, if I roll 1 dice and you just trust a fate, the worst situation you end up with is you end up in a, things are pretty desperate right from the get-go. There are modifications to this. Is this operation particularly bold or daring? Take 1d. If this operation is overly complex or contingent upon many factors, take a -d. Does the plan's detail expose the vulnerability of the target or hit them where they're weakest? That doesn't really apply in this case. I'm actually willing to go.
I was about to say, I think we do, because they're not looking out, it seems.
I guess my question is, have we outlined the plan sufficiently? So we've talked about how we're getting on. From there, we're going to find the computer core so we can track down where the data file is. And
yeah, basically you have levels and room numbers, and everything after that is sort of figuring it out as you go. Unless you decide to go more in depth. I was actually feeling pretty good about the bold or daring, because I just like the idea of dead sticking it right up to the side of the ship. Not that doesn't mean hitting them where they're vulnerable, because again, if you're coming in cold like that, you're making use of the fact that they're trying to stay quiet, and as a result, we're gonna try to come in quiet and take advantage of that. So I'm actually okay with that as well. Are there any other elements that you want to consider? Maybe a lower tier target will give you a +D. Higher tier target. These guys are actually a higher tier target. But there's something. They're actually quite a higher tier target, so there's probably a minus dice off of that. But nothing else in the situation that makes the operation more or less tricky. There is one thing that, having accepted the job, you are given a resource for accessing the station. Whether or not you choose to use it is entirely up to you, but they have your employer, who again still playing coy, have given you sort of an access code backdoor thing that's supposed to help with getting onto the station via, airlocks, whatnot. It's going to have the indication is there. It may have some use inside, but that's limited and or unknown, I should say. But definitely indicated that it will help with the
Initial
breach. And I can do this one of 2 different ways. I'm actually fine with. So we can either say that is going to give you an extra dice on the engagement roll, or Like if you get to the point where you need to like actually roll to bypass, it can give you a boost to the tier that as you're working against it. But if you have an extra dice, there's a higher chance that you get sort of further along into the mission in the first place. So it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Would you prefer to have that sort of background thing as an extra dice or on the engagement roll? The reason that you would do that is that if you can pull off a crit, you kind of bypass the first hurdle, like just staging you in. We wouldn't be starting with you guys on the skin of the ship, at the airlock. We'd be starting you guys in the hallway with the airlock closing behind you, kind of thing. So there's potential there. Really kind of depends. Up to you. What would you rather?
I like to start off on a good note, so I would rather spend it on the overall roll.
On the engagement roll?
Mhm.
Cool. All right. So I think start with 1 dice, add 2 more to get us up to 3. The tier should move it down, but the thing would move it back up again. And I think those two things kind of balance out. Do you want to involve your friend who is also a docking? Oh God, what was the title?
Dockmaster?
The dockmaster. Do you want to involve your friend who is a dockmaster? And have like sort of let it be known that you're interested in such things.
Would that be?
They would give you an extra dice. That would get you up to 4 on the engagement roll, which is very, very good. Or about as good as you can really get. Functionally.
I made the last call. Somebody else gets to make this one.
Sure.
Sure? Okay. All right, so I'm going to go down here to the star dancer, and I'm going to hit my little fortune thingy. Roll fortune. Number of dice is 4. And all right. Bloop. What do we got? Oh, bleh. All right. Well, it's better than nothing. All right. On a fortune roll, outcomes. Engagement roll determines the position of the PC's initial actions. When we cut to the job in progress, a 1 to 3 means a desperate position. A 4 to 5 means a risky position. A 6 is a controlled position. A critical carries the action past the initial obstacle. All right. So, Drifter, how'd you get your nickname? Why that?
Because the family that he comes from doesn't have any particular home aside from their spaceships. They're roaming space traders.
Oh, so it's not it's not something you picked up like from a piloting style or anything like that, but just the
It could also reference that. I like the idea that it has multiple meanings, and that's why I picked it as a player originally. But that's
sure.
Like if you didn't know about like racing or anything like that, that's probably what you would assume, and that's also true.
Yeah, originally meant as a kind of almost that thing that it starts out as a slur or a kind of a put down, and you turned it into more of his own kind of a thing. You might reflect on the irony of it as you're, or the symbolism of it as you're coming in. Now, so what you were given was the original coordinates for they were able to locate at least one pickup spot for this secret way line. And as picking up that route and flowing through that as much as you can, but also drifting back out of it a little earlier than anticipated, just in case they have any passive sensors there, or something like that to indicate their ships, and a lot of tiny little taps basically on the compressed air, you know, directional jets to really just use your momentum as much as possible and drift towards this thing. They're dark, which makes them harder to spot, obviously harder to spot, but they're warm. They're not broadcasting loudly, but the problem
Once you're
with
close enough, you can read their infrared
they
emanation.
definitely have a heat signature. It's unavoidable. Space is void is weird because you think, oh, the chill of space. Yeah, except for the things that generate heat tend to keep it, and that stuff has to go somewhere, or people just get cooked. So you're doing a lot of this. What does this look like? Show me the cockpit. Is this you looking at a screen where you have kind of a glowing infrared image of the ship on the screen and you're reading a bunch of telemetry, or do you have kind of like a VR mask on where you're looking out and and that VR mask is showing you space, but with the station drawn in? Like what is?
I think it's like Tommy. He plays by sense of smell. No. I want to say that not just visually, but there's probably if this ship has been outfitted with some kind of actual good cockpit, and at some point hopefully it would have been.
Yeah.
There's probably not only visual indicators that are not only just saying how far something is, but also are specialized for close approaches. But there's also probably things like tactile sensors or audio indicators that mean something specific, like in a game where you hear this warning sound, and you're like, oh, okay, I know what that is because that sound means nothing else. I've trained myself.
I know that sound. It's a bad sound.
But you've got is your
I want to give you an example from Star Trek.
Okay.
When in the third movie they're leaving the space dock, Kirk is telling Scotty, he's like, you can open the starbase doors anytime, and Scotty's like, I'm working on it. And you look over at Sulu, and Sulu's just like, I just work here. And you start hearing these alarms, and these alarms get more and more alarmed. Like they're escalating what the human panic reaction they're intended to convey. And I think it's kind of like that. It's like, yeah, there's this proximity alarm, and then there's the emergency proximity alarm, and that's fine. That's the sound I want to hear.
I want the emergency proximity alarm. So are you getting most of the visual reads? I like the sound thing. I love the idea. I almost like the idea of, you talk about, like in video games or stuff like that, the idea that the cockpit's set up with surround sound so that you get the proximity alert, but from the right direction.
Yeah, because there's no sound in space, and so we may as well add some and make it useful.
Yeah, exactly. So it's coming from the left, and I got to tip the ship back a little bit so it's coming in from the belly, that kind of thing. But are you primarily looking at screen readouts, or do you have that VR goggles on, or is
probably just looking and listening?
Looking and listening, just
you kind of got to just be in the moment and not be divorced from where you really are.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. I like it a lot. So he just slides. I mean, now again, I'm going to always ask this: who's in the cockpit with him while he's doing this?
Armin.
So I'm volunteering Armin to be the one that asks, go ahead.
I was gonna say, at some point during this, there's probably just gonna be that subtly increasing grip on the shoulder where it's like, shouldn't you be doing something about this sound?
I like that a lot.
Well, he's in the Overwatch position, and it's just it was hand on the back of the seat, and now it's grip.
How does Drifter pilot in these sort of high tension things? Does he get really manic in the motions, or is he really crazy calm and he doesn't seem to be responding to the degree that the situation seems to warrant? Somewhere in between.
when it's a moments like this, he's very calm and he goes like he likes this moment where anything could happen, but he knows what's going to happen. He's kind of he's kind of riding the surf.
Nice.
So he's very relaxed.
I like that.
And Armin's like, why aren't you panicking? You're supposed to. This is the moment for panic.
Yeah, this. I mean, there really isn't a better time. There is a moment, Armin, where you're like, are you eventually going to dock, and you realize about like
You are raising my blood pressure.
well, and you start to make the noise in your throat that's the beginning of you asking the question. You realize that all of the proximity alerts have gone to a deed, and you're docked, or you're at least on the ship. And it happened about 5 to 10 seconds ago, and you just hadn't realized it yet because it was that match. There's no real judder through the thing. Everyone.
The way will guide us, man. It's okay.
I like this. I like this guy as the surfer pilot. The original mechanic for Serenity for Serenity, except competent. Okay, so now is the time for spacesuits and security passes and all that kind of good stuff. Is anyone staying as backup, or what's happening there as people are already piling in? And I'm assuming the people who weren't in the cockpit probably already suited up. Hell, I mean, Armin's probably everything but the helmet kind of thing.
I kind of have to.
Have to stay back or have to go
No,
in?
I have to go.
Yeah.
Who's the one who has the hack ability?
Oh, that's true. I'm not sure if anybody else has hack.
Who has the one who isn't affected by quality or tier when bypassing security measures?
Really? That is darn handy.
Yeah.
You might want
it's like
that.
I wanted to make myself like a compliment to the team.
What? Crazy pants. And when that roll goes very bad, Monster will be demonstrating how he is a compliment to the team. With the punching. Okay, so right, so airlock. Drifter, are you coming with? Is the ship going to just kind of go on cold standby, or?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool.
There's the small chance that the ship's added mass will slow down the station rotation. Probably not in this case, but in those cases, he might stay behind to make adjustments. But yeah, he's coming along.
I mean, if that sort of thing does happen, it probably will happen slowly enough that you guys should be on and off if you were going to try to pull off something. Well, the idea is, all right, we've got about X number of hours, an hour or two before they start noticing that their day
has gotten a little bit longer.
Their rotation is longer. The gravity's too high on this particular spine of the ship of the station, or whatever, or the artificial gravity. I talked about this, right? The idea of the artificial gravity, we've got it until we get into combat situations, in which case, if you're generating more G's than the artificial gravity is meant to generate, you're going to overwhelm the artificial gravity. So there's going to be these things where it's we've got artificial gravity in this part of the station, and people are complaining of nausea from the Coriolis effect. We're not doing gravity from rotation. I know that's the problem. That's the kind of thing that's likely to show up. So cool. All right. So bundle up a spaceship, or up in the spacesuits, up to the airlock, and I think we already kind of burned that little bonus thing, but it's fine because Armin has the thing where he gets to ignore tier, which is super useful in this particular situation. And he gets to roll a hack roll. So we start off with a risky position. I'm going to say standard result because you want the door to open, please. Your hack is what?
I have a 1 hack.
You have a 1 hack. All right. I have a devil's bargain, if you want to hear it.
I'll hear it. I may even entertain it.
They're well, it's a bit of a paranoid station, for obvious reasons. They do, while they're passive and not actively doing any of this kind of stuff. There's going to be security tapes to review later, and they're going to get a nice long look at pretty much every detail of the ship that was docked outside when, after the fact. So
no.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
Not loving that idea? Okay.
Not at all.
It's okay. We put electrical tape over the ship names.
I wasn't quite done. The follow on to that was, unless you take time to go do something about the security tapes, they're going to be able to review them. So the option's still out there for you to go and take care of that, because you know that that's likely to happen. But it does give you more crap you've got to take care of.
No.
No, still no.
No.
Okay. All right. So you've got your one hack. You've got the ability to push yourself.
And can any of us help with that? Or is that
There's a couple.
Yes.
not really
Yes.
reasonable?
Does he want
just
us
to help with that?
Someone can assist, and they can take 1 stress to assist.
Yep.
Somebody could set me up with some other sort of action. Like, I don't know, monster holding me in place to stabilize me against the ship.
Yeah. There's a couple different options there.
That's probably more useful than my pounding on the computer panel to see if that makes it open.
Actually, that would work too. Is tear this off so I can get in here.
Yeah. This particular hatch is rip this loose. So a couple different. Let's just run down through it, because I was recently reviewing Bill's little thing here. Doctor is also science. I mean, if you squint at it, you can probably argue for that one way or the other. If somebody else has hack,
The rules explicitly say that scientific pursuits are covered by doctor, so that's why I threw that in.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I mean, science has doctor in there. If you squint at that, I mean, science probably applies here in some situation. If somebody additionally has hack, obviously being able to help with hack is good. Is sort of obvious. Being able to help with rig is dead simple. There's you talk about some of the things that we were joking about with monster ripping the panels off, but honestly, being able to bypass some of the mechanical fail safes on the door, in addition to the hacking, makes it much easier, obviously. So that would be a way to do a setup roll. It would also be a way to help. In fact, you could have one person helping with, you could have Drifter doing a setup roll with his rig, and Sun doing a assist roll with assist. It's not a roll, but an assist with his rig. Study, sure. Look out. There's this they've got an extra security system in here that is going to short out and cause an alarm to go if you bridge blah blah blah. Helm probably not. Scramble probably not. Scrap, if you're going to go with, Fezzik Terrors.
Pounding on it?
Yeah, rip it apart. Skulk, I feel like probably, is it fair for me to say Skulk probably has your basic lock pick type stuff in there? Like pick a lock kind of stuff? Is that where that would live, or would that normally live in rigging? And rig, rather. I'm willing to say it's probably...
It's about picking pockets and remaining unseen. So
Just
it definitely could be employ subtle misdirection and sleight of hand. So I mean,
yeah, maybe not.
It's more about
covering up cameras as we're trying to get in.
In this case, it's probably that what I'm thinking of would probably be more in rig. Attune, possibly. There's artifacts in a lot of these stations, and being able to reach out and fiddle with something there, possibly. I'm not sure about command consort and sway, but there's ways that people can help. So the setup roll, what that does is you make a roll that is separate from Armin's, and you try to make the situation more favorable to him. And what that does is you could change either his effect level or his result. So rather than dealing with risky standard, you can go, I'm going to do this thing, and rather than being risky, it's going to be controlled now, if you can make your roll. The help The assist one is much more straightforward.
Just-
You take stress and give him an extra dice. And there's no roll required. You just do it. And I think only one person can assist. Is that right? Or
Only one person can assist through spending a stress.
right. So, and of course, there's the option to spend a gambit, which you guys have 3 of at the moment.
So
Who is jonesing
do you have
to do
I
stuff?
was gonna say I'm happy to do it either way, but I mean, which do you think is better? What kind of help do you want?
Well, I mean,
Give me a help you can provide.
yeah. I mean,
Well,
so let me put it in mechanical point of view. Let's say you want to help with rig, and your rig is a 1. Your situation is you're mechanically better off to just say I'm going to give you an extra dice because your rig is a 1, so your results from a particular roll are a little bit less predictable.
Chancy.
Yeah, a little bit more chancy. So it's a nice solid thing to be able to say I will spend the stress and I will give you a dice. Now let's say your rig is a 2. You may be better off to do some kind of setup thing, making that that narratively speaking makes his job easier, or makes his effect better, or makes the situation a little bit more safe.
Okay.
So I'll use Drifter and Sun as an example. Drifter has, I think, rig at 2. He might be better set up to do the setup role, whereas Sun, unless might be better. So it might be better off, saying, well, narratively, I've got rig, so I'm going to help, and I'm just going to spend a stress and give him an extra die. If that makes sense.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And the nice thing about that is with the setup roll, there's no reason somebody can't help with the setup roll. So if somebody's doing a rig thing and saying, well, I'm going to do the setup, it's like, well, I'm going to help with, I'm going to help them with scientists. So you can there's a lot of stuff happening there, where, it's, it's it's Drifter and Monster doing the setup role where Monster's helping with his great big muscles and, helping, tear the panel off as the rigger, as the rig roll happens to kind of make things easier. And then Sun is throwing a dice in to assist the actual hacking by, bridging across a couple of circuits to make things a little bit easier there. So there's all kinds of combinations. Just like I want it, to think about like I want to see my character do X, and we'll figure out a way to make that happen. If it makes any kind of sense at all.
Well, I definitely think Monster doing the, pulling aside some sort of a sealed door to allow someone to access circuitry buttons, whatever
Yeah.
it looks to be,
without having to worry about accidentally, hitting some sort of conductive plate because I am not going to spark.
These are relatively secure doors, and not designed to be opened without, all the proper codes being put in.
Yeah.
So,
and having the proper tools to do maintenance, and Monster can bypass some of that whole proper tool necessity.
yes. Whether that's holding it open or just doing the initial pulling aside to the sound of various squeals and cracking metal sounds.
Okay, so it sounds like Monster wants to assist. Who else is in on something?
I can
So
help.
Go ahead, Margie. You were going to say. Sun had said I
go
want.
ahead, James.
Oh, I was just going to say that I could do the assist, just giving a die.
With the rig thing. Cool.
Yeah.
I think so. That's kind of 2 people raising their hand on the assist thing. Unless what Monster's doing is doing like a scrap to yank the panel off, kind of a thing. It depends. It depends rather on whether or not somebody wants to also do like a setup kind of thing. And Margie was going to say something.
No, I was gonna say that if we needed more, if you felt like you needed more diet, I'm willing to take the stress.
Yeah.
Um, because I mean, really, the only thing that I have that would work would be if there's a situation where, you know, I can look at the flow with a tune and it's going to help something. I'd rather save that for later on in
Yeah.
the
I
in
mean,
the mission as
there's
something that
more
would be
than one.
more important.
Yeah, there's more than one door, certainly, and there'll be, I think, ample opportunity to
And I
figure.
did have one question. Is the
Yes.
MacGuffin purely mundane? The
Unknown.
data? Okay,
Unknown. It's supposed to be a data thing, so uh,
got it.
would but again, kind of unknown. Let me
And I will
grab.
note parenthetically, so that other people are thinking of this as well, that one of the things that I have as an ability is the unstoppable, where I can push myself to perform a feat of physical force verging on the superhuman. So if we get to a point where that's useful, that's something I can bring to the
Definitely
table.
remember that that's useful. I'm going to get that over to the token layer, and we're going to also get in the token layer. I'm going to get the clock up here for the stuff up there. Okay, so I think the first thing is probably monster scrap roll.
Good noise.
Yes, sir.
Is this the clock for the door or the clock for the whole?
It's not the clock
mission?
for the door. The door is just a way to fill in some of the clock.
It's a tick.
This is well, potentially more than a tick. So this would be, I gotta get in the edit thing here. So this is like, let's call it, get the data. Does that work? Actually, no, doesn't work. Is there a way to change the clock ticks after the fact, or would it be just easier if I just copy a different one?
It'd be faster to just copy a different clock.
All right. I will do that. 1 second.
Because they are entirely different icon sheets.
Gotcha. All right. Give me a second here. Because I'm going to do a different one for getting. So, needs the data. All right. Save changes. And, all right. So, monster. You can do a scrap roll. If you want, you can push yourself. And take 2 stress or accept a devil's bargain. I have to think about that for a second. Or you could just, well, I don't want to have you use your unstoppable thing because, well, wait a second.
Why not?
It just happens, doesn't it?
No, he spends stress. He has to push himself.
You can push yourself. Oh, so you can spend stress. All right. Right. How much stress?
Dave, I think your mic's up.
Yeah. How much stress does it say? Or
It's push.
It's a push, so it's 2.
Yeah.
So
It's the same as taking a devil's bargain.
Well, no. Devil's bargain is no stress. Push yourself is 2 stress. Perform a feat of physical force that verges on the superhuman. I'm going to say with that ability. So here's my thing. You can roll, and if you get a decent roll, you can just hand off the thing and change the situation for Armin. But honestly, if you just spend the 2 stress and push yourself, since you have unstoppable, you can use unstoppable to basically just shift his position from risky to controlled. So you don't actually have to roll. You do need to take the 2 stress. Alternately, you could just stick with scrap and not take the stress and do it that way. Ease up to you.
Well, the conservative me says that no, you don't. I don't want to start taking a lot of stress the very first thing. But this is monster, so I'll just go ahead and do that.
Okay. So
not taking stress is what kept you from getting into fights before.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So,
which is a backwards way of thinking about it, but sure. All right. So you just reach in.
So just remember this at the end of the session when you say, "Did you act in character?"
So what is this? I mean, do you like? So there's like a
So
little,
there's-
it's like an
there's-
access
there's a-
panel. Do the fingernails like go into this thing like a can opener, and then pull, or what is this? Punch it to get the edges up so you can get your fingers on them. Use your teeth.
Actually,
Don't use your teeth. That just makes my mouth hurt.
Use your
He
teeth.
could use his horn.
I'm going to press hard enough, and then so that my hands are against the panel's surface, and I'm pressing hard to create as much friction as I can, and then I will pull just enough to be able to slip my fingers in around the edge of the door. At which point I'll have a much easier time pulling it the rest of the way through
Okay.
to the screeching of
Well, yeah, you're pulling like
protesting metal.
you're pulling a couple of rivets out to get this cover panel out. So yeah, it's 2 stress there. Sun takes the stress. So what we've done now is we're back to Armin's roll. He is rolling his hack. He's getting an extra dice from Sun's assist, and that gets
And
him
I'm controlled.
you're controlled, so potential fallout from that obviously better than might otherwise be. So I think unless you want to spend a gambit, you're ready to go.
Mm,
Dun, dun, dun.
Are you thinking?
I am thinking. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I didn't know if you're. It's a tough guess to say. Are you thinking, or are you trying to get all the little click throughs to?
No, I wanted to double check something.
All right. And you're right now. This is actually one of the situations. Not every single door in this place is sitting at the tier of this thing, but this is one of the situations really nice to have that thing that lets you ignore the tier for this kind of stuff, because it's with it being the Star Crafters Guild and then being tier 3, that does all kinds of painful things to your position, your results, and stuff like that. And there will be situations where that comes up. So being able to bypass that is very nice.
All right. So now I know what I want now.
Yes. Okay.
All right. So I'm at controlled for standard effect.
Yep.
I want to do risky for great effect.
Okay. Alrighty. So with great effect, are we looking to get further into the security system and maybe open a few more doors down kind of thing, or give yourself some kind of... I see. Okay.
Well,
I am down with that.
in which case, if no one minds, I'm going to spend a gambit.
I
Please
think
do.
I think the payoff there is pretty good. So give it a shot. What do we got?
Check us down to 2.
There was a beat. With
All
great
right.
effect comes great responsibility. I gotta look at drifters. Nice gift, Bill. That is a fine bit of parking. Oh man, couldn't quite pull off that. Oh, wait, no, that's not right. You didn't roll enough dice.
No, I rolled exactly enough. I have 1 hack. Sun gave me another one.
Oh, you had 1 hack. I'm sorry, I thought you had 2. My bad. Sun gave you another one, and Gamut gave you 6. Okay. So a success on great effect.
You do.
Okay. All right.
But we don't add a gambit.
But we don't add a gambit. That's correct. All right. So I think. Oh, I gotta look at this now. Where is the?
3 ticks.
Is it 3?
Page 26.
That's one of the ones I need to bookmark more than anything. Yep, great effect. Love it. Oh, right, and then the crit goes to 5 or whatever. Multi-sided, choose a side. I want 3. 1, 2, 3. Very lovely. Okay, so the airlock cycles, the little unexpected airlock thing goes. you guys quickly slide inside, and Armin keeps walking into the airlock and gets over to the other pad and quickly, like, there's like a 20-second countdown kind of thing where this one code is still available, and he punches that in on a more robust, like, sort of terminal. Not really a full-on terminal, but like a touchscreen sort of terminal thing that's got, like, inside of, like, sort of a bubble, a blister on the side of the wall there next to the inner door, and that pulls up. It's like the maintenance underlayer. Like, you get into the thing and okay, this is a terrible example, but it's the best one I can think of. You know how when you screw something up when you're checking out at the self-checkout at the grocery store, and the guy comes over and, like, punches in a code, and then suddenly he's in this back screen that nobody else gets to see? It's kind of like that. You get into the maintenance screen, and from there you can back through a couple more things, and you set up a maintenance routine where you're going to be checking doors in this sector of the station. So within, the next couple of security doors. So you put in the PIN code that you're going to be using, log that you're going to be doing this job, and it comes through as, this maintenance thing that's already going to be happening. And all you have to do is just, tap in this PIN, and you're going to, get into these. You got a couple of access doors down the road that are expecting you to show up and provide this PIN, and they will open because you're supposed to be there. Cool?
No, that's fine.
Think like a maintenance drone. All right. You guys are in. Hang on. Walked into a different room. Need my other stuff up. You guys are in. Oh my word, where is it? Oh, here you go. So, there we go. Pull this over to the side so I can look at it at the same time. Every time I switch through tabs, I end up for just a moment being on that tab with that car crashing again, and it's glorious. It's just glorious. It's still flying through the trees. Okay, so corridors ahead. You're in a very unusual area for docking, as Dave had indicated. But you're not in a untraveled part of the station. Good place to dock, not a quiet place necessarily to go through. So you're definitely hearing away from the airlock and down the corridor, sort of that you're 50 feet away from an active cafeteria kind of murmur of people. The immediate corridor is not full, but certainly the place around here is fairly heavily peopled. So what's the next part of the plan?
Do we have a direction for that?
Kind of ahead, because from the airlock it's sort of.
We're on the end of an L.
Yeah, you got to get up to like a sort of a T intersection, and from where you're at, it's kind of hard to tell which direction it is. But get up to that intersection, and odds are pretty good there's going to be people within line of sight there. So it's just a question of what do you do? Whether it's access ladders up, pull off your spacesuits to reveal Starcrafters maintenance crew jumpsuits, which instantly flashbacks. Flashbacks are a thing. So that kind of stuff. What's the plan, man? Or the doctor rolls out a gas canister of sleepy, highly illegal.
Or some
gas.
group sneaking.
Or some group sneaking. Group skulking.
Because that worked so well.
So well last time.
Everybody in this group has skulk. You guys should be good at that.
No, I don't.
And yet.
How did you end up leading the group skulk when you don't have skulk?
Very simple. I was willing to take the stress.
There you go. Well done. Was that
Somebody else can do that this time.
when you were talking about raising something under your prowess? Was that where you were like, oh yeah, I need to raise skulk? When you were talking about that last session, I think you were. You were saying
Yes.
like, what am I gonna add? Oh wait, skulk, of course. Yeah. So yeah, group skulk. Creeping into, maintenance tunnels, that kind of thing. Everybody act natural. We've all got our right jumpsuits under, which is where you do your, flashback to Margie acquiring some, some jumpsuits that fell off the back of a laundry truck. Thanks to something like that. What does that remind me? Oh, the Italian Job. Wasn't it the Italian Job? Something like that. Where they all got like uniform or like jumpsuits or uniforms or something like that. Anyway.
I was gonna say it's every other hustle.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. Think caper movie, because this is where we reveal some of the prep that went into getting here, kind of stuff. Or you just creep away.
So, since this is an airlock, I'm assuming that there's going to be, probably an adjacent storage space for suits and stuff.
Yeah, emergency suits, probably a couple of maintenance suits where that kind of thing. So yeah, kind of the space station equivalent of a cloakroom. With lockers,
So
that kind of stuff.
I'm assuming that it makes sense for us to make use of that to pull off our suits,
Yeah,
since we're going to have to come this way anyways to.
get back to the ship. I mean, ideally, you come this way to get back to the ship, because coming back from some other airlock to get back to the ship is going to present some other
Additional challenges.
additional challenges.
Stress.
How is your
Excitement.
vacuum breaststroke? So yeah, divulging yourself of that kind of stuff. But then what's the next thing, guys? Think like the caper, or think like the assault on the Guns of Navarone. I don't,
So, how are you guys planning on getting through here?
Well, my
Yes.
personality would be braze it through, but
That seems like a great plan.
the only
Any plan
complication
is a
there
great
is
plan.
monster.
No, what? No. That is a setup. That is a setup role for disguise away.
Yep. Yep.
I was gonna say we can do the classic, oh, we're escorting the prisoner.
Well, that assumes that they've got prisoners here. I mean, this isn't the
Which
Death Star.
would make sense.
This isn't the Death Star. This is a
No.
listening station.
Wait. You need to rephrase that. We have the test subject ready for transport.
Okay, that's fair. Look at his eyes rolling his head. Clearly, he's been infected with way creatures of some kind. Way.
Make sure put big chains on. Will look very convincing.
Ate tainted meat from some sort of way infected deer or no
Zombie deer.
zombie.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, haven't we all recently? So yeah, you've got that. The reason, and I'm not attached to this particular idea, but I want you guys to understand how this thing works. If you're doing the flashback kind of thing, this is that moment where you take off the spacesuits, and it's like, and we've all got our,
I like the idea. They've all got their jumpsuits on, except for me, who's in whatever the the broken arrow stripes.
Two of you guys have two of you guys have
lab outfit.
Yeah, the plan called for two of us to be doing maintenance and two of us to be security, escorting this guy, or two of us in lab coats or whatever, because that was the clothing we could get. So these are the outfits we could get.
And none of them would fit monster.
Yeah.
I always have my recognizable medical gear.
Yes, you have the recognizable medical gear. You just need one of those little you need like the pocket protector that has the correct logo on it. Kind of.
No, it's the white coat.
It's the white coat, but then you got the thing. So that's what you do. You do that. You say, well, we would have figured out who this was for. We figured out it was the Starcrafters. So we're gonna go and acquire some of their stuff. You spend a bit of stress depending on how unlikely I find that to be, which in this case not terribly. And then you roll your sway, I think, maybe, or consort. Probably no, it'd be sway. It'd be sway.
It depends on how you want to leverage it.
Yeah, consort would be like.
It could also be skulk.
It could be skulk.
Just steal the stuff.
Steal it from.
Still be skulk, yeah.
It could be study, and you just duplicated it.
Ooh,
Sure.
yeah, I like that. So yeah, it's really just. Thank you.
Pick something out.
Get the spray paint and the silk screen on the.
And we're
get the right color cloth.
The whole classic, the Firefly episode where they like make an ambulance.
Yep.
I mean, it's like we're not gonna steal one. We're gonna make one from spare parts. Nobody look at it too close because the paint job's not that good, but it'll be fine for a second.
Little damp.
Little damp.
They'll dry out in the wind.
So yeah, it's really just a question of what you want to leverage, and then that indicates the prep. Now again, it doesn't have to be uniforms, but if you're going to be brazenly walking through here, you probably should. Well, it's just a question of whether or not you want to roll now or roll. It's all just meat for the machine.
So does loadout play a role at this point as well? Because I had been kind of thinking from what we had been discussing that probably I was going to be having a heavy loadout.
Well, you should definitely have checked that because that, but there's lots of ways you could do monster. If he's wearing security stuff and he's walking in with a couple of their folks and he's got his stuff, he's notable, but it's just a question of whether or not you've got the cover for it. You're going heavy or like the ultra heavy?
There's just heavy. There's light, normal, and heavy.
Oh, that's what was what I was thinking. Are you going normal? Or are you going heavy? Like this guy is clearly trouble.
I was going heavy.
Bring me heavy.
Just because that seemed like the
appropriate for you.
Well, my thought at the time had been,
in case things go wrong. Right.
Yeah, it's not like we're walking down a city street.
Right.
But it sounds like we're actually kind of walking down a city street.
Well, it's an occupied station and there's stuff going on. So, but again, like we've got access tunnels. We've got, there's no reason that some of you can't move brazenly and some of you guys can't, whatever. It's just about how you handle it. So deal with the fact that monster is heavily is loaded for bear, and then we flash back to a couple of sessions. We flash forward to a couple sessions from now, where you're getting the argument of like, no grenades, Jane. But and now we know why.
A grenade would sure come in handy just about now.
Yep. But now we know why monster has to be specifically told, don't bring the rocket launcher on the stealth mission. What are we thinking? If Marcy's going brazenly going in there, I just want to hear how.
Well, I guess my question to the group is, do we have just one destination, or do we need to have people in two different places?
Sounds like just one.
Just one for it. Yeah. There's no extra thing to do.
Unless we want one group to act as a distraction to make sure.
I mean, if
you
stumbles upon
monster is excellent with distractions.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, go down through an access ladder or something like that, drop down or drop, go up a couple of levels, and
just walk down the corridor.
You just walk down the corridor. It's like, what the sweet Christmas is this? Yeah. And then he pulls out the
Excuse me, sir. You know rocket launcher is very dangerous aboard a space station.
Hello. Only if
It
it goes up.
is?
This is extremely safe. Let me demonstrate all of the fine safety features of this beautiful detonator launcher. First of all, oops. So yeah, I mean, you could certainly split up to do that, and that's basically giving Monster the ability to roll some setups for making things a little bit easier for other folks. Someone with hack or rig could also kind of split off and just start wreaking havoc with the station systems to kind of again provide cover, or you guys are going in a clump.
Well, I think part of the other question is, how valuable is it to us that they don't know that they've been hit?
A lot of that works out to heat and consequences from the rolls and stuff like that. You guys are planning for stuff to a certain extent. You're worrying about stuff that the dice will take care of.
Okay.
So that'll be
I guess
that'll be in consequences or devil's bargains or things like that. That they're going to know who it is, so they're going to be upset with you later.
Okay, so I would rather have distractions be a plan B kind of thing that gets sprung if we need them.
Okay.
And that way, unless we can do something that doesn't that looks like an accident. So I mean, Monster walking down the aisle is obvious an intruder. Someone hacking the system and making I don't know, what is it? Oh yes, the fire suppressants go off.
To go back to a classic maneuver from
Trope.
a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Is not well, and somebody now has a lot more experience with fire alarms.
That sounds like a story I want to hear at another.
And the disruptive nature thereof.
Yikes.
They've had 9.
No, Mom.
Okay, never mind.
Well, save
Come
it
back
for
to
when
it.
we aren't recording. Well, I do want to hear this story. Anyway.
So I mean, I'm willing to take the hit and lead up with sway, if we want to do it in a more.
The question. So my question is: Are we doing this where we've are we setting up where you have done some prep and you have some resources in play to pass yourself off as I should be here, or are we going in as everybody walk confident, I've got this, and you just go down the hall dressed as you are kind of thing?
No, the first one.
The first one? Okay. So what do you?
And that's what makes it a caper.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So what does this look? So you're doing sway. You're acquiring appropriate costumery, Starcrafter cosplay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm gonna look at your person.
How are you doing that?
Yes. I'm looking here also to. Oh my good lord. Stop it. All right. There she is. All right. So. I like how I didn't notice before the character sheet that the list of your contacts is like the word, it's labeled friends, but the friends is in air quotes, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah, they're all different.
I hadn't
It's great.
They are all different.
Friends.
Because mine are influential friends.
Monster.
Mine are deadly friends.
Yeah, Monster has deadly friends. The Scoundrel has friends.
Friends.
All right, so one of the things you can do here is you can loop in one of your contacts. First one that jumps out at me is your smuggler friend. Because if you're smuggling, that means you're coming across these things. So he might have the ability, he might have some, oh yeah, I have to pass myself as, we've had to do StarCrafters a couple of times. I've got somebody who can, I got a friend who likes to make a couple extra bucks accidentally losing uniforms. That kind of thing. So
that might be relatively easy in compared to some things.
yeah, honestly. And I think if I remember correctly, that gives you, if you can loop in a contact, does it give you an extra dice or no?
It should.
I might be making
That's
that
for
up.
acquiring.
That's
for acquiring assets.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you're right. It is. You're right. It is for acquiring assets. It doesn't actually apply in this case, but it's still kind of a nice little bit of background. So
Okay. But I can use something like sway with them.
yeah, I mean, or that can certainly be who you're reaching out to. What were you saying, Mike?
Trying to sway your friends definitely may make it a much more relaxed position.
Yes, that makes the whole situation better. Okay, so we're swaying. We are pushing yourself. Devil's bargain. Possibly a devil's bargain, if you're so inclined.
Oh, we're always willing to listen to you, Joyce. We enjoy listening to your twisted mind.
Devil's. Let me look at this. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Does the ship currently have any cred? It doesn't right now, does it?
No.
No. So devil's bargain on this one's pretty straightforward. I've got somebody, but he kind of thinks I owe him some money. And eventually it's going to come back around that I got him to you, and that's going to kind of bring me front of mind on him again. So got a job going. I could really use a cut of that to kind of smooth things out over that, make things kind of. So the devil's bargain in this case is, I mean, this doesn't happen otherwise, but the devil's bargain is you agree to cut him in on this, and he gets a cred out of the payout. Alternately, if the job goes so far south that you don't actually get paid, you're still going to just owe him a cred. Don't have to take it. That would give you an extra dice, but you end up owing him a cred.
That sounds like a lot to me, just given how broke we are. But I will put that out to the rest of the group.
This was what was the overall take on the job?
I feel like you're okay enough without it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm looking at the list of devil bargains. Cred's one of the things on there, so I'm throwing out there, and you have greedy friends. Sorry, air quote friends. None of the rest of the devil's bargain options really speak to me too much. So
that is true, but we are more poor than desperate right now.
So I'll dice him for it. That's my sway roll.
That's your sway roll. Okay, so you've got 2. You can push and take stress if you want. That would take you 2 stress. That would get you up to a 3. Your situation is going to be standard result, but controlled. If you wanted to go risky, that would get you a great result. You could kind of swap that around for that that risky great result.
Yeah, it doesn't get interesting to me until we get to desperate.
I mean, fine, but I don't know that. I mean, going to desperate doesn't make it any better for you in this particular situation.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not worth bumping things unless we get up to desperate.
I mean, if we talk mechanics, switching from controlled / standard to risky / great is, and if you manage to pull off a 6, you're if you get a standard success kind of a thing, the payout in terms of how many clocks you tick is better. You know what I mean?
You also put gambits back in the pool.
Oh, that's right. If you use if you don't.
Oh no, mine's on desperate. Not.
It also says it on risky.
Where's that at?
Risky
Oh, right,
6.
right.
You
Standard
do
one.
it, add a gambit to your crew as above.
Right.
Yeah, you have the extra thing where you get it in 2 different positions. So if you can, so right now I'm giving you controlled. So yeah, so
Sure.
actually, yeah, risky actually does do something for you because it'll kick a gambit in. And since it's a kind of a zero-sum game, if you really wanted to, you could throw a gambit into it, because regardless of what the result is, it's going to be a wash. Well, no, I guess if you didn't roll a 6. So to sum up, you're rolling 2 at controlled/standard. If you switch to risky and move that up to a great result, potential outflow from that is more clocks tick. You might be able to push a gambit in there if you get a 6 on it. Chance of getting a 6, obviously better if you throw a gambit in, or if you push yourself, or both. Pushing 4. If you push yourself and do a gambit, then you're rolling 4 dice. Although, judging by Armin's dice, that's not necessarily a great thing. Or wait, no, it was that fortune roll. It was the fortune. I was thinking of the fortune roll where
because you touched the button.
Yeah, I know. The fortune roll was 4 dice, not exactly performing well as you might like. But the odds of a 6 gets pretty good at that point in time. In which case, the gambit is a wash. You pick up a couple of stress and
yeah, I like that.
Okay, so we are
pick a couple of stress up.
So pick a couple of stress up, and spend a gambit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's rolling. So you're rolling risky, great result. Rolling sway, and then the 2 bonus dice. So it should be a total of 4 dice coming out, assuming I can math. Oh my God, these dice! They hate you. I didn't touch the button, I swear.
Well, I can't see it because somehow something else popped up on my screen. Sorry.
It's not a failure, but it's not awesome.
Oh no, you went back down to standard effect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's still I mean, she didn't fail. She got a 4, right?
I know. It's just it's one of the things is reduced effect, which would take her back down to limited, possibly.
Yeah. Let me look. Okay. Effects are great. Hang on. I'm looking. Really? I do not like the way this book is laid out. And I'm going to sing a song about it. Nothing's in the right order.
It's not intuitive for how you and I
expect
think.
things to be laid out. Yeah, definitely not. Oh, for the love of Pete.
What are you looking for, Joyce?
I'm looking for the skill. Oh, I found it. Never mind. Just as I said that. Now, I wouldn't move down to a risky position unless it was like a 1 to 3 kind of a thing, I think. All right. I'm looking at your guy here real quick. I'm gonna do. There's a minor complication on this, and this is because they're doing this way. This is before the actual thing. So this is Rin. So he's a smuggler. Okay. You know, it's fine, but this isn't a zero sum thing here. And like I said, things are pretty complicated here. So this is what I need you to promise me. I need you to find me after your little thing is done and you're flush. I'm gonna need some help with something. Okay? I don't want to get into a lot of details right now, partly because you're, walking into the den of the enemy, but find me later. I need a little bit of help from you and your crew. All right? You can promise me that? We're good.
We're good.
All right.
That's why you deal with friends.
All right. And I think the 4 on a great still. How many ticks do I tick? Is it 2?
Great is 3.
Great is still 3. Right. So we still move 3. We just have this extra little thing, this extra little complication thing. Gotcha. Yep. Gotcha. All right. So do that. And so is everybody like what? Tell me about the costumes then, Margie. What have we got everybody dressed up as? Why is Dave laughing already?
I'm just waiting to hear.
Side 2, 3.
So, I think the idea of having Monster as, some kind of subject or at least an unusual alien that's being studied, especially given his, kind of origin story where it makes sense. Then I think that
it might be tricky because like you mentioned, he came loaded for bear.
Well, I think that
which actually just gave me an idea. But
my impression is that, in some ways, just Monster being Monster has that effect of looking dangerous, right? And so, other than like a grenade launcher or something like that, we should be able to.
Well, that's the thing is he picked the
cover
loadout.
His bulk.
Yeah, well, he picked the loadout that says I am clearly here, expecting trouble. But I have a thought about this. Talk about costumes or outfits or something like that. Putting him in some kind of weird alien
environment suit.
Well, yeah, like in a weird.
Cosh him up.
And yeah, cosh him up and have at least, well, Armin's perfect for this, honestly, but have him in like the corporate diplomat negotiator type person who's like giving a tour of the facility type thing. So it's Armin schmoozing the I keep thinking of the Palace Job where the lockpick is always the lockpick girl is always the tinker is always like their default little thing with her and the acrobat are, he is the ambassador from the, faraway kingdom, and she is the one giving the tour of all the sights and sounds,
right?
And, that kind of a thing. So Armin's like walking along and sort of quietly explaining things, and trailing behind them is, a couple of folks in, station garb. Or and a harried looking assistant.
Well, and I think you let Sun be in. Yeah, you let Sun be in his medical persona.
Yeah, a medical persona is like who's got like a tablet and keeps like
monitoring the
worriedly
monitoring
looking at
the suit.
Yeah, looking at the panel, looking at the suit, looking at the panel,
and the rest of us are there trying to look like we're either assistants or people ready to jump into action if anything is needed.
Yeah, like, doing the, no, you don't want to get into this elevator, Han Solo is the stormtrooper kind of a thing. So yeah, you caught, so the weird alien who's carrying all this extra stuff, but he's an alien. What are you gonna do? He's a Xeno. And you've got the guy. Armin was the one who was the hack, but he can just like lean over to, Drifter and something. It's 4213, and
Yeah.
you've got the person with the jumpsuit and the cap, and so Drifter in the jumpsuit and the cap. We've got Monster kind of coshed up. Armin talking along.
Yeah, or Armin in corporate gear.
Armin, yeah, such a stretch for him.
And then, if there is a standard office uniform, for the company, not for, desk jockey. I mean, for, that
You've got the space pantsuit on.
I have the space pantsuit on.
Space pantsuit. Space
I
pantsuit.
have my space secretary look on.
Okay. Armin, what was the corporation you were with originally? It was the Counters Guild, right?
Guild.
Explain to me the subtle nuances of attire between the Counters Guild and the Starfarers Guild for the executive class.
Well, you see, the Counters Guild has a particular cufflink that is 3 touching rectangles. With the Starfarers Guild, they use something that is more of a set of triangles that evokes a starburst.
I see. And they're prominently shooting their cuffs to display
they're
these
prominently
things.
displayed. Armin, for instance, has his up on his lapels.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay. Anything
And of course they all have their gold embossed pocket protectors.
with anything different in terms of like personal, like, is the eyeshadow different? Have you got to do something different there, or is it
That's all Armin, baby.
that's all I mean? Did you do the thing where it's the semi-permanent makeup that's like somewhere between makeup and a tattoo? Is that what the eyeshadow is? It's just
Not the eyeshadow.
not the eyeshadow.
Some of the other stuff, yes.
Is semi-permanent. Yeah, I can't remember. Okay, all right. Yeah, I'm just curious about that. All right, so you had laid out the path. So you've got the station flunky who's going along ahead, making sure the doors are open. You guys come up to the intersection and proceed. Armin sort of giving a tour.
This I don't even know what this is. Let's move on. Not important to our journey today.
The chatter primarily seems to be, and it's off the corridor at least. People aren't completely jammed in this thing. It's but there's a series of like 2 rooms on either side that are pretty good size that are. It looks like somewhere between like an open office floor plan and like the command center for like the Apollo 13 movie. So it's a bunch of people like number crunching, data crunching, processing, 3D holographic displays of various representations of nonlinear space, that kind of stuff. So you're down in the, I guess it would be the bowels of the station to a certain extent, where the nerds live and are doing all of the actual hard work of getting usable data out of the stream of whatever's coming in, whatever's being brought into the station and being used. So they don't have necessarily the end results, but they're the ones who are making it. And there's probably maybe 100 folks in between these 2 rooms. They're good size. And there's a glance here and there, but and there's certainly a couple of wide-eyed, like, oh my God, look at what the, why? Kind of stuff. But I want there to be a Kosh quote in here, but there really doesn't need to be. But again, you see the executive there, you see the rest of the crew.
There's a hole in your mind.
There's a hole in your mind, and I put it there with my finger. Poke.
So it begins.
So, can quickly kind of trundle along from there and get past all of those folks. They're a nosy bunch, but they're also going to steer well clear of what looks like, executive tour kind of deal. And we're headed for...
I'm very interested in what's going on, but I don't want them to notice me.
Yeah. I'm very interested, but I'm not interested enough to screw everything else up.
Yeah.
Looking for...
I've never seen that in my everyday life. Never before.
Seen what?
Exactly that. What I have been... that was a joke.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah. It might have been a little bit easy to come up with that. Where is the thing I'm looking for here? Okay. All right. So, you're heading for the lifts, and it's clear sailing as far as as far as any of the doors go. Nobody's really, people are noticing you, but they're certainly not stopping you because they don't know anything about what's happening here, and none of them are at the pay grade where not recognizing a thing is something that you act on. It's just one more thing going on in this place that they don't know about. And it's not in their best interest in that. The next bit, so you get into the lift, door closes, voice thing pops up and says destination, and your destination is one of the sort of engineering labs / data repositories. What I guess what I'm aiming at here is what's your expectation? Well, actually, do you just go down, or have you already prepped for the fact that there's maybe a guard station down there or something like that? Is there any prep going on, or is everyone just are you ready? Are you ready? Are you pulling out weapons or sticking with this particular thing, or?
So actually, part of my load is
you don't have to specifically say, but certainly.
Well, yes, but this is playing into what we're saying.
Sure.
I'm saying that as part of my load, I'm going to tick off maps and charts.
Okay.
So that we have some predefined information about the.
So yeah, I'm going to go with kind of a Rogue One idea, where you have that sort of central room and then a couple of doors off of it that lead to various data repositories. Now, it's not going to be like the one in Rogue One because, that's a little bit, that's a very Star Wars data repository. But you've got sort of a central sort of admin station type of thing, probably with security. And certainly there's a desk there for that, given the the charts that you have for this type of a station layout. This is where you're told that these kinds of modular stations can be used for lots of different things. But if this is where the data is, then you can judge from that kind of what that means in terms of where where you're going. So you're going to drop down, come out of a lift, and you're going to be in sort of a central room. Not honestly unlike, if you want to go for another Star Wars thing, the sort of that central room where the prisoners were at in
Right.
New Hope. Honestly, same basic kind of deal. Central kind of station thing. Probably some people there. That's what you're going to walk out into. Go. What do you do? Door opens and Monster and Drifter just eat everybody? Or kick? Or eat and kick? Kick and then eat? Usually kick and then eat. Tenderize. Then munch. I'm just saying.
Does Monster's load include condiments?
I think that just comes automatically. Seasoning? It's probably under poisons.
I was gonna say it's
Or illegal
illicit
drugs.
drugs.
Illicit drugs, including spices, herbs,
Who's
sriracha
the-
sauce.
Well, let's go
11
this way.
first.
Who's the first person
First.
out the door when the lift opens? I mean, that kind of speaks to what's the next thing that's happening.
I would, given the setup that we're running, I would say it's going to either be Armand or it's going to be Drifter, because Drifter was the one opening doors and Armand is the one leading the parade.
Right. So probably, yeah.
I mean, I can also be upfront if we think some, fast talking is needed, but
Yeah.
do you guys have a preference?
I mean, you can certainly try to con these guys and show, we want to get into the data thing. That totally works, and we already have the layout for that. And if that's what we want to do, we can absolutely do that. Yeah, I mean, I kind of like the idea of Armin and his escort or his escorted guest coming out there and kind of looking annoyed at the desk and kind of like making the get on with it kind of thing to Kay, who kind of settles up and say, our emissary from the Corps would like to see our data storage before they commit to helping us with that kind of a deal. I hear a beep. I think what it should read, Bill, is you get an anagram about if you're promoted, if you manage to live to a leadership position. But yeah.
That's implicit.
Yeah. I like James's idea is the best. We're doing Get Help. I hate Get Help. I love that movie so much. I mean, that would be very funny, and we should absolutely do that at some point in time. But we're doing Get Help anyway. Okay, so door opens. Armin and Monster stroll out. The guys look appropriately suspicious, questioning, bemused. Sorry, sir, we are not, this isn't, I think you may have gotten off at the wrong level. Just kind of.
If you guys want me to handle this, I totally will.
Armin, are you?
If you want me to handle this, I totally will.
I love the fact that we all have something we can handle this one specific situation for.
And they're all
This is the situation.
Completely different directions.
They're all very different things. Armin, Armin, you're first one out of the elevator. Why don't you? We just had Kay do a sway, so why don't you do a sway? See what you got going on. Now this is going to be, so fair warning, this is going to be one of those situations where the tier is definitely in effect. Highest security section of the thing, so they're probably This is a sort of a tier 3 resistance thing, so it's pretty ugly.
Before I do this,
Mm-hmm.
Dave,
Mm-hmm.
do you feel as though you have addressed the challenge with force or threat yet?
I mean, if you're gonna solve a problem, might as well be a way that gets you.
Like Maria?
Dave,
Yeah.
do you feel as though you've solved a problem with force or threat yet?
You know, besides a panel, you know, panel,
Dave, I defer to you.
Emotionally not very satisfying.
So
panel does not really fight back. You know.
so I'm gonna do some setup here to support Monster.
Whatever horrible thing Monster's about to do.
Yeah. So if this is their most secure area, can I touch a wall that's towards the side that we're trying to get to? Can I kind of lean?
Sure.
Can I kind of be on the side of the desk so that I can touch the wall over there?
Well, it's not super tight. I mean, it's a big enough room. But yeah, you could definitely like sort of.
Well, I'm thinking that like when we come up to the desk, we kind of spread around, and in my assistant mode, I'm less visible than say Monster.
I mean, Monster and Armin. I mean,
we're definitely the center of attention.
Yeah, I mean, you're both noticeable and memorable visually in different ways, but still very true.
Demanding of their attention. How's that?
Yeah, Drifter and you, and honestly,
eye-catching.
I mean, Sun is not the kind of person you typically see down in this area, but isn't super noticeable. But I mean, Drifter and you are basically invisible, or certainly beneath notice.
Yeah. Servants.
Indeed.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is kind of lean up against the wall of where we're going, and I would like to use a tune to look at the flow in this area to determine if there's if it's beyond the wall is mundane or non-mundane, because that may impact the type of defenses that they have.
Okay.
So one of the things that I have as part of my potential gear is, mystic bullets. So if I sense that the other side is, is other.
Mm-hmm.
Then,
well, and you don't necessarily need to tap out the stuff, but
although I just actually had a really bad idea. In fact, I love it.
I mean, get help.
Based on our more recent
James, we're doing get help.
And kind of only so based on our most recent experience with me kind of attuning and attracting shit to me. I might kind of open up the room a little bit to way creatures.
I mean,
just to add to the confusion.
I mean,
they definitely wouldn't be expecting it.
I would have to put that somewhere in the realm of desperate.
Oh no, desperate?
I mean, I'm just saying it would probably be desperate. And well, no, they're on a dark way line, so it may not be limited. It'd probably be desperate standard. I like how you're like, oh no, not desperate. So if you're looking now, this would actually probably not. This wouldn't be an assist roll. This would be a setup where just like enough weird shit's happening that they're just kind of distracted. So yeah, if you want to do something like that, you are kind of out in the middle of the black, right next to a way line, and you might be able to attract some unwanted attention. It's a long shot, but you're a scoundrel.
Well,
so.
and I'm thinking of it more as as a setup, because then it can benefit Dave, but it
Well-
doesn't necessarily hurt him.
For the setup for the attune that I was thinking of is if you're seeing to see if there's any like weird what their level of defenses are.
Shit,
And if you-
Shidometer is?
Yeah, and if you get a sense that they're mystic bullets are indicated, you give them one signal, and it's like no, just cut loose because they're just normal guys. You give him a different signal, and he can proceed with that level of confidence that this is the right move. Either pulling out the mystic ammunition or himself, or just proceeding with what he would normally do. And either way, he's got that. He's moving forward with.
Right.
And he honestly, I think that may be. I mean, I can go with either one. I can honestly go with either one. Anything that you can do in terms of the setup role that helps is certainly going to help, because the situation is such that this is a it's definitely tilted in the favor of the defenders on this one because of the tier of the defenders and this room kind of stuff. So anything you can do for the setup is works. That certainly is a great way to in either case, I'm fine with the attune. I think the sort of immediate results kind of idea would be the just sensing what's going on in the area, what their level of intent is, what their defenses are like, and all the other kind of good stuff.
So maybe on a subsequent clock tick, if we get towards desperate, then we pull that off. The other off.
Or it ends
Okay.
up being consequences of something going horribly wrong.
Love you.
Anyway, all right. So so we do an attune, and we would. Where are you? I'll pull you up here.
So what would you call that one?
It's an attune roll. You're doing it as a setup.
So does that make it controlled standard, or?
It would be. I would think it's. I wouldn't say it's controlled, because there is enough tension and stuff in the room, potential for people to notice that you're kind of glazing out and not acting like a typical office drone assistant type person. So I would say risky but standard, because the information you're trying to get or what you're trying to accomplish is pretty straightforward. So yeah, I would just go risky, standard. You can, I mean, Devil's Bargain. You attract some way creatures. I mean, then you get. I mean, that they wouldn't be
For
providing.
free.
Yeah, for free. I'll give you an extra dice for attracting way creatures. Look at it this way, Margie. It's like getting both ideas all at once.
I'll take it. Not my ship.
It's not my ship. It's not my problem. I mean, you do have your ship attached to this ship, but okay. Okay, so extra bonus for the Devil's Bargain. That gives you 3, and you're not having to go up against their tier at this point, because you're just doing the sensing stuff. So really, you're just trying to pull off any kind of success at all. There's a potential for the roll to make the Devil's Bargain go a little bit further south, but other than that, I think it's all good. So
what if I switched this to desperate and wait?
You're not.
Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, you're not moving the clock, so it doesn't necessarily get
it
you
doesn't help me.
anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So risky and standard.
Risky and standard.
Plus
Rolling
1.
plus, yeah, you're rolling an extra dice for the Devil's Bargain. Correct. And that gets us a 5.
That's a little better.
Yeah. Just looking at
I will note that the last 3 rolls, the highest number has been the first one.
the sixes, and certainly the 6s have been avoiding you guys.
Well, maybe somebody else should roll.
What are you talking about? I did fine.
Yeah.
Time to get James rolling some dice.
Yeah.
Hey.
As I say, if I wanted to be safe, I'd be a wizard in a tower,
I like
not a
that.
scoundrel in a spaceship.
I like that.
Okay. Okay. The good news is these guys are, in fact, the station is disappointingly mundane. Almost as if they've really scrubbed, standard. It's standard fusion engines. There's nothing really. I mean, this had to have been a massive headache to build because they're out on they're in the middle of bloody nowhere on basically all but on a way line, and there's no technology in here at all. They're doing standard fusion stuff. The heat venting is certainly high tech stuff, but there's nothing there to it. They just absolutely in the same way that they're trying to be sort of signal neutral. No real level of technology, which is ironic, honestly, because they're doing nothing but researching way lines, and they have got no real way stuff going on here at all.
Well, that makes sense because then they're not interfering with the research.
Right. Certainly the local stuff isn't being messed up and stuff, and they're trying to keep this thing as neutral as possible. That's the good news, because Monster, you may proceed as normal, and it gives you an increased position or effect. The downside is you just became like the single spot of light in what has otherwise been a completely ignorable dark place for any way creatures anywhere nearby. So not only are they coming, they're coming to find you specifically. Whether or not they're coming for hungry or anything like that. Yeah, that's just the 5 being, not a perfect success kind of a thing. So the devil's bargain gets a little bit more complicated. And I will tell you, that. Like, there is definitely a sense of something stirred out there in the black as you were kind of reaching out and sensing, and you get out towards the skin of the station, and definitely something rolled over in its sleep and said, wait a minute, I'm feeling peckish. Hopefully it wasn't that. Monster, tear their arms off.
Yeah. You said it's a relatively small room.
It's it's like I'm gonna go with about the same dimensions of that room from cell block AA23.
Okay.
So that kind of, I mean, it's a couple of quick strides across the room and vaulting over the thing to get to somebody, and the guy who's probably standing forward, that is even a bit closer.
I'm assuming his Kosh gear is breakaway.
Of course.
Mean, everything that he wears is breakaway.
It's breakaway.
I mean, monsters like
no Bruce Banner stretchy pants.
Everything around Monster is potentially breakaway, even if it wasn't originally designed to be. So I mean, obviously you've got you're heavily loaded. You can pull out all kinds of horribleness. What do you do?
Boy, I mean, if I was smart, I would sweep aside the shower curtain that has been artfully draped over me to look like an environmental suit.
Please tell me that you know enough about Babylon 5 to know that Kosh's thing was actually a shower curtain.
I'm sorry?
Was Kosh's costume actually part shower curtain, and that's why you're making that reference? I'm just curious.
Well, it kind of had that sort of drapey, multicolored,
plasticky,
plastic look to it.
Well, the plastic was the headpiece, but once you got below the astonishing headpiece, it was all kind of drape.
Yeah, drapery. So I mean, in a world, he would push those aside with a blaster in both hands and take out everybody in the room.
I mean, sure.
But that's not the mood he's in right now. It's been a dry spell, and he's been showing restraint. So yeah, he will sort of shuffle up to the first individual, the closest individual,
Sure.
just to start that much closer.
Mm-hmm.
But he definitely, I think, wants to do this hand to hand.
The old-fashioned punching way.
The old-fashioned punching way.
Okay. All right. Duly noted. So we will check off on your load that you have brought fine martial arts style.
Of course.
Just for the sake of having it. Are you armored? Are you wearing armor? Because I just want to know this going in. I mean, you are heavily loaded. You might as well get.
Yeah. I've probably got some sort of armor.
Now you have two potential checkboxes for armor. Do you have like both of them? Are you properly loaded for like being mauled by a bear?
Are you talking about both checkboxes for the armor?
Yeah.
No, it just takes both checkboxes.
Armor takes two checkboxes. Right. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Gotcha.
There are some things that are just big.
Gotcha. It's not that you have two of those things. Right. All right. We don't need to sort out the rest of it. I just wanted to. And martial arts style doesn't surprisingly take up any space. That's convenient. Okay. So you are wading in to scrap.
Yes.
Okay. I got to do the math on this. This is pretty much the textbook definition of standard risky. Okay. But because of the situation that they're in and the equipment that they have and the other defenses in the room, blah, 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 and just the fact that it's where it is, we're dealing with an opposition that is tier 3. So what that does is it turns your standard risky from that down to desperate and no effect, because it moves your position that you're in down a notch, and it can't go down 2 notches because then there's nothing. And it moves then your effect from standard down to limited down to nothing. Now, Margie's positioning thing that she did changes your effect level, so that gets you back up to limited. Okay? So we're now in a situation with desperate limited effect. Desperate limited. You've got, and the reason for this is it's guys, but there's hidden pop out defense turrets, there's alarms, but mostly it's about the risk of the actual scrap. These guys are armored, they're armed, they're ready for hand-to-hand stuff and weapon, whether or not they're mentally ready for it, they're equipped for it. And then you've got all kinds of defense turrets and virtually intelligent systems and that kind of thing, saying there's violence, shoot the people that are not us. All that kind of stuff.
It's about time.
I will also add in your fine martial arts style also boosts you up from limited to standard.
Oh, does it? The
Mhm.
fine
Yes.
martial arts stuff? Very nice.
That's fine.
Or it pushes you down from desperate to what's its
Risky.
risky.
Okay, so
Whichever one you want.
So K's assistance gets us to desperate limited, and your martial arts style could get you desperate standard or risky but still limited. So you can reduce the amount of risk that you have, or you can increase the amount of effect that you're having on them.
Well, I guess the question becomes, what's the effect that I'm looking for here?
Well,
Which I guess is to take people down.
right.
Well, from a purely pragmatic standpoint, if we're still just checking boxes on the thing, you need to get standard.
Yeah, if you're trying to get far enough, I mean, the downside to that is if the dice don't go exactly your way, there's pain coming your way.
There's something I can kick in as well if there's
Yes.
if there's room.
Please.
So this ship is, or this station is based on spin, rotation, and gravity, right? Centrifugal force.
Wait, it can be. So I'm going to say yes. You know, actually, I'm going to say yes because technology, the antigrav is at least partly technology, and these guys are pretty much not using any of that. So we're going to say it's all centrifugal. So let's go with that. Yes.
And our ship is snugly docked. So what happens if I turn on the rockets remotely?
You're devious.
Can we have more than one setup roll? Or is that
setup?
cheating? Yeah.
Probably.
I
don't
think
know.
so.
Let
I'm
me
gonna say yes. I mean,
Go ahead. I have another factor to pull in, but go ahead.
No, I mean, so that absolutely works. And here I thought it was going to be something like, I would like to use my scope to assist, and I'm going to spend the stress. No, I want to throw the entire station into a weird tailspin. Why think so?
Well, I mean, basically, it's going to be a bunch of humans laboring under heavy gravity and Monster the one Xeno. So who's going to have the advantage?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would. I unless I can think of some.
Or the whole thing will fall apart. You know, in which case.
In which case, you know, that's what these desperate rolls are all about.
Not my ship.
So we're back. What did I say we're at? We're at desperate
standard.
Desperate. We'll say we're at desperate standard with monsters martial arts. If we can do the successful assistance roll, or not the setup roll there from the ship, and I'm going to say yeah, go for it. Then that would actually get us up to a lovely, risky standard, and things are actually in pretty good shape. There's a ton of stuff. I mean, this is the kind of situation when you have such a tier advantage, everybody's kind of like got to throw chips on the table, to a certain extent. I think that would.
Is there any
Go ahead.
lingering advantage we have from just the nature of our disguise and the fact that we're not an immediate obvious threat until
we are
until I go for punching out the first person's throat?
Not for,
or that is kind of absorbed by the situation.
I think it's kind of absorbed by the situation. Theoretically,
that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, because they're already. I mean, you're not. The costume being what it is, you're really not. This isn't where they give tours. So there's, and a lot of this is like their level of alertness, suspicion, blah blah blah.
Got it.
Although you guys, there was never a clock of going on high alert, so you guys are kind of jumping from, everybody thinks everything is fine to why is the station suddenly bucking? Okay. So I'm kind of open to either one of these things. Does this feel to you, Bill, like a rig roll or a helm roll?
I would kind of say helm because the central question of how do we pull this off is the same question you'd settle when piloting a ship.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
And it can all be established through a flashback.
I would think so. Like there would be a warning that people would know to hang on to something.
Yeah. So we already have, because we have your adorable little Urbot. I say adorable. I know you don't. We're not going that route with it, but the flashback is really just sort of framing this bit up, where as you're leaving the ship, you're stationing the thing in the cockpit. It's ready to go. All right. When I give the signal. That kind of thing. We really should actually sort of detail this guy, but it's fine. So that's really, I mean, the flashback doesn't have to be where the roll actually happens. That's just the flashback to kind of like, you setting all this stuff up, and then you're just making the helm roll. So that's helm is 3 on you.
Yeah, and I'll spend stress to exert myself or to push myself.
Okay.
Don't worry about that, Bill.
Why is that?
I'll spend distress to help you with that.
Oh. Well, I mean, you can both do, but it doesn't necessarily.
One stress from me is better than 2 stress from you.
Yeah,
that's fair. That's fair. And you guys have to still get out of here, so there's also that.
And this is just risky standard, or is there something else?
This is just risky standard, I think. Risky, yeah, I'll say risky standard. Ho, that's a crit. That's our first crit. Hooray. I feel like we need to do something with that then. Okay, so we're definitely. Let me look at my whole thing here. Do. All right, so we were already at. Well, obviously, so this was a setup roll. Walk me through this mentally, guys.
Well, this was risky, so I believe we get a gambit.
Is that right?
Yes, because he didn't spend one.
Oh, is that
Yep.
what I thought it was? I thought the gambits came when you did the desperate rolls, or no?
No, that's Margie's ability.
That's just my
Oh,
special
okay.
thing.
So
However,
get a gambit, sure.
okay. I will note also, as I'm sitting here looking at my character sheet,
Mm-hmm.
as we dive into this, that with my Wrecking Crew special ability, not only when I strike in melee do I gain a dice, but when I spend a gambit in combat, I also gain an effect.
A level of effect.
Oh my God, you guys are gonna just.
Yeah, we're just gonna steamroll these guys.
That's gonna be insane. Okay, all right.
Yay.
So that we're up to.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
We're up to risky standard, and the thing I'm walking through on this is more. I want to recognize that Drifter got a crit, so yeah, he hands back the effect change, but I want something else to have happened as a result of this, like an unexpected benefit. And I'm gonna go with massive distraction keeps the alert from down in the data storage archives from being noticed immediately because
all the ship is on alert right now.
you guys, well, all the ship is on alert, but all the focus of that is the fact that like you've got a dog on a leash that's like trying to like run circles around you and is rapid. Yeah, I mean, this obviously where the ship is at and what's happening there is drawing all of that. I got to think about mechanically, but luckily I'm going to have a week to think about what that looks like mechanically. I think there's probably some knock-on assist die there, or a setup or something like that for some other role. Got to think about what that's going to look like. But just remember, go
your
ahead.
setup can affect multiple rolls if the fiction allows it.
I am totally okay with that then. So that setup's going to roll
And
out.
it conveniently spins the way beast into, you know.
No, that's still going to be your problem. You bought that devil's bargain, and by God, the shipping is going to come in. All right, so what Drifter did has got us up to risky standard. Now, tell me again about what your thing is, because we're going to get this rolling, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Wrecking Crew, your strength and ferocity are infamous. When striking in melee, you gain +1 die.
Okay.
And whenever I spend a gambit in combat, I gain +1 effect.
Okay, so you could go to either controlled standard or risky great with
Controlled standard isn't bad.
Controlled standard is awesome because the chances of you getting shot and because this is a fight. I mean, wounds get handed out.
I can patch you up though.
You give Sun something to do if you do get shot. I mean, it's really just a gift to him at that point. But
He's been wanting to try a new drug out on you.
So yeah, I mean, so what you have right now is you've got scrap at 2. You pushed yourself? I mean, let's not even worry about
Wrecking-
that. Wrecking Crew gives you an extra
Wrecking
dice.
Crew
That's
does-
3.
yeah.
If you throw a Gambit at it, that gets you up to 4 dice right there, which is pretty good. Although apparently only rarely good enough to get a crit.
Wait a second. So
So 2 scrap plus 1 for being in melee gets you to
Okay.
3. Gambit gets you to 4. Before you do
I
anything,
thought Gambit aided to the.
no, Gambit
Yep.
Gambit gives you a dice, and in addition to that,
Oh, okay.
raise it. Gambit always gives you a dice. With you in this situation, it
also
also
gains +1 effect.
it also
Okay.
gives +1 effect. Yes.
If everybody's okay with my taking a
Now,
Gambit,
theoretically, what I
yeah.
should be doing, and this is another thing that's affecting your thing. Theoretically, well, no, you guys are in a big group, so it doesn't really come up a little bit. But the fact that there's more guys would theoretically be a tier thing, but you get to ignore that anyway because you're unstoppable. So the whole small gang on an equal footing thing comes into effect. It doesn't do anything.
If I push myself.
Yes, if you push yourself, you're right. But it wouldn't matter anyway because you guys have got plenty of people here. All right, so you'd be rolling 4 dice plus it would be a controlled standard effect.
Okay.
That sounds pretty good to me.
That does sound pretty good. So I tap that, and a window pops up somewhere.
Yes.
There we go. So it is a controlled, but I can't. How do I add my 2 dice?
I think it asks
After
you.
that part.
Keep
It-
continue.
Yep.
It's at the very end.
Okay. Oh, controlled standard. 2 dice. You can tell often I've been rolling dice.
Yeah. This is maybe the first time, and you got. Oh, okay. I was like, you got a lot of commas. That was so weird. It didn't load the numbers for a second. All right, so a solid success, and the success on the scrap. That's more than what you need to fill the clock. So that's not a problem. Describe what this looks like, Monster. You got like 3 guys here. They're all armored, but it's also the turrets and like some turrets popping up, also that kind of stuff. What does this look like?
Well, and the other effect being
the bucking station.
Yeah, the station suddenly bucking and everybody's moving in all directions because of that. But monsters used to like dealing with, an arboreal environment where fungal floors are springy and you're dealing with multiple dimensions. So that part doesn't throw him off nearly as much as it does anyone else. He's just basically, for someone as big as he looks, he's just sort of all over the place. Hitting guys almost in passing as they're tumbling past him, and exerting, going ahead and punching out the little turrets as they're popping up,
or throwing guys into them.
Throwing guys into them, punching them out or tearing them off as he's dancing past them. Until an amazingly brief interval later, there's nothing but kind of sparks flying out from 3 or 4 places around the wall, and all 3 of them are down.
And Monster kind of actually crouching on the control table, like up on it, like in a 3-point, kind of like his feet, and then gripping it with one, and kind of looks down at the panel and tips his head slightly to the side and pokes one of the buttons, and the one of the data access doors. Instructions said chamber 23, yes? And that's the thing opening up. Okay, so
with a big smile on his face.
That's the clock for in, and it's also probably where we wrap up. Now, I think we don't go. Does it? Should we? It seems like we don't go through XP stuff. Or am I being persnickety? Is a session. It feels like we go through it. Okay.
I'm fine either way.
All right. What do you guys think?
I'm okay with that.
Which that?
I am okay with doing the thing,
Doing the
as
thing?
opposed to not doing the thing.
Okay, let's do the thing. All right, so starting from the top, then in alphabetical order, let's begin with Armin.
Let's begin with the ship.
Let's begin with. Oh, man, if we do the ship, then I got to go back over to this. I'm in a different room here, tucking. My dog.
Execute a successful transport or smuggling aspiration. No.
Not yet. No.
Contend with challenges above your current station.
Yes.
Yes.
Bolster your crew's reputation or develop a new one.
Not yet.
Not quite. Express the goals, drives, inner conflict, or essential nature of your crew. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Check 2. Well done.
Armin. Let's see. Address a tough challenge with deception or influence. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Express your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna pat myself on the back for asking about the corporate, like the corporate
Couplings.
style thing, because I like that. The whole corporate, like,
Yeah.
corporate couplings.
Yeah. You struggle with issues from your vice trauma or traumas during the session? Not really.
Not yet.
All right.
I haven't given you guys any stress. I mean, you've taken a little bit, but.
I am fine on stress, sir. Thank you.
Oh yeah, are you?
Me and my 6 stress over here are just fine.
I'm quite
be
happy
fair-
with my 5. That's a good number.
To be fair, I mean, good. I don't know about that. All right. What else we got? Did we get through your list? Sorry, I'm
That
getting
was
back to
it.
my screen.
It was
Okay.
3 things, so
All right.
it's Bay's turn.
Bay K. Bay Campbell.
Did I end up rolling a desperate or not? No, I think we just
No.
moved that down to risky.
Yeah, we did. Didn't have any desperates.
I tried.
Yeah, I know.
You talked me out of it.
Yeah, I know.
You tried desperately for one.
Ha ha ha.
You addressed the tough challenge with charm and audacity. You did
Yep.
sway your buddy. Beliefs, drives, heritage, background. Yes, mostly because I'm gonna frail with it with my attune.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not gonna worry about, but not vice or trauma. So check a couple boxes there. That's cool. Drifter. I did something crazy with my ship. It seems like that should be one of the things on the list. Waiting for the thing to come up. The sheet's not loading for me yet. Oh my god.
Well, there's no desperate actions.
No desperate actions.
I just addressed a tough challenge with speed or flair. I'd like to claim speed.
Yes.
So
You may clean speed. Beliefs, drives, heritage, or background. I'm gonna put that in the WEO column for next time. And struggle with issues of vice or traumas during the session. And I don't think anybody's gonna get that. I get one.
Not yet.
Get one. Sorry, man. Okay. Monster.
No desperate actions.
No desperate actions.
Tough challenge with force or threats. Definitely one with force.
Yep.
Two if you count the setup for opening up that panel and taking stress for it.
I would say, you can tell me if I'm being too persnickety about this. I would say if that had been how you'd solved the problem, then yeah, but since you were sort of handing it off to somebody else just to give them it wasn't so much solving the problem.
Well, I addressed the problem.
Am I being a pendant? I think I am.
He did address the issue.
I'm going to say partly because.
Pedant, not pendant.
What's that? Seriously?
Pedant, not pendant.
He's being.
You're right.
pedantic.
No, but he's.
And I'm doing it ironically too.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're both right, ironic, and illustrating my point.
You know, I don't think that there is such a thing as an ironic pedant.
I take that as a personal challenge.
All right. I am actually gonna say take 2 for that. mostly because you've been kind of ripped off on being able to solve things with violence for 5 sessions in a row. So yes, take 2. What are your other things?
Express beliefs, drives, heritage, or background. Aside from a prejudice for action,
Yeah,
I don't know that anything.
I think probably no, but
And I didn't struggle with any issues for my vice or so.
that's okay. Neither did anybody else. And now for probably the person who's going to get ripped off the most on XP for this session. Sun, what have you got on your list?
Not much.
Not much. Because you were assisting, and I don't even think I got a roll out of you on this one.
No.
I promise I will shoot somebody next session.
Ooh, yay.
I promise that you will actually have to patch somebody up. Unless they roll really well, in which case I can't do anything about it. But I will do my level best to
Just shoot somebody.
If you aren't
shoot
careful, I'm gonna
so
start
much.
stabbing people
It's
with
just like,
mystery drugs.
Hey,
Ugh.
hey.
See what
Ooh, I like that.
I mean, Armin's an easy shot. I just have to shoot him.
Hey, so
He'll
Son
bleed out.
addressed an issue with insight,
Did he?
helping with the panel.
Yes, he did. Give him an XP for that. Have an
Ooh,
XP,
yay.
son. All right. Well, that was I was laughing a little bit because I was reading the thing about the gambit or about the missions and stuff. It's like, don't feel like you need to fill up an entire session with a mission. I mean, they might not take up an entire mission. I'm like, yeah, but
Ours are only 2 hours.
I mean,
They're
yeah,
probably counting on 4.
they're counting 4, and getting out. Also, there's a lot of like figuring out how all this stuff goes together. Although I feel like we are at least starting to get some familiarity with just how all the pieces go together. So that's kind of a good deal. There are some complications coming. We have wake creatures closing in on the station, which is also spinning erratically.
By the way, beautiful. Beautiful.
Yes, Bill. That's freaking fantastic. Between you and Bay's little complication, that's gorgeous. But yeah, hey, I've got this gigantic engine strapped to the side of this spinning thing. Can I make that be a problem? Yeah. Yeah. Space is pretty much always trying to kill you, so you can always just help. I didn't even think at the time when I was saying, yeah, they're not using any of your technology, that they're going to have to be doing like centrifugal force for gravity. That's fantastic.
You give me any detail, I'll use it.
I love it. I love it. And, I'm glad that you had that to come in because I've been quiet for quite a while. When you spoke, you spoke volumes of destructiveness, and also had the only crit for the session. So yay. All right, so we've got wake creatures closing in. We have a system spinning out of control, but we have the data packet and time to get out of Dodge and flee.
Actually, yeah, on a question, there was mentioned that the setup role can apply to multiple things.
Mhm.
It seems likely that it could add to our escape as well,
Yes.
because they're going to need to be busy stabilizing the station, and we're not.
Yeah.
But it also might penalize us getting out. So there you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's probably I'm gonna have a little bit. I don't want to screw up too bad, but certainly it's going to add to narrative challenges. I think more than likely, what it's more likely to do is create more desperate situations. It's gonna make situations.
Oh no, desperate situations.
I know. Yeah.
Ooh.
Briar patching. I mean, it'll give you. We've certainly got a situation where it may give you an advantage floating out. It should, I think, but it also, I think, may create some situations that are a little just crazier than they might otherwise be, because the system is spinning unexpectedly. The Coriolis effect. I hope you guys took your space Dramamine.
I have something for that.
I was gonna say
So I'm gonna.
there's Sun's assist beginning of next round.
All right. Craziness is happening. I feel like we're actually building up a little bit of story momentum too, which is great. So I'm going to just stop here, and that puts a bow on session 6.